Hello, and welcome on back to Election Time News, your one-stop political summations, poll reviews, nonpartisan predictions, and reviews and compilations on other political forecasters. Today is Friday, October 4th, 2024. Today I'll be looking at this cool 538 tool. I can show the odds of winning and based on inputs on other states, and it does tons of mathematical calculations based on a large model. Basically, you can read this right here. In the meantime, now, if you like content like this, make sure to subscribe. I'll be giving weekly updates on the presidential election predictions every Tuesday, leading all the way up to a video with my final prediction the morning of election day. I'll be trying to get as accurate as physically possible. Now, as well as periodic updates on Senate races, I have a goal of 500 subscribers by election day, so do me a favor and click on that bright red button. That'll be really, really close, really tough to get to, but it's a challenge I'm willing to accept. So help me get to that goal and help subscribe so you also won't miss any future content, such as my election night ultra stream, which I will be streaming straight live with the results, with my own theme pack and everything for announcements, from 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time all the way until 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time, or even later. So do not miss that. Make sure to subscribe so that you'll get notifications when I officially go live. And now getting to the video. If any of you read this, you will understand exactly how this works. But anyway, moving on now. Here is my electoral map that I have for my prediction, adjusted to the 3 per candidate type here: solid, likely, and lean. So there are only 3 options for each. And so with that, now we have what looks to be basically this sort of map. Now, there's a few interesting things that could occur here. First off would be the most common, which is the one that I have going right now. Red, 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 blue, 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 blue. Now I'll have to do a quick little bit of recalculation, and this doesn't... Alright, it's doing some math right now. But 50 set there, 43 set for Trump, and then looking right here, it shows that Harris is a bit over 270. It's doing some recalculations. Looks like New Mexico ends up going safe blue. Virginia ends up looking safe. It is still doing some math on some of those. These are all safe. Missouri goes from likely to safe Republican. That is absolutely backed up by my own. Basically, this entire region is actually all safe. I don't see any real potential chance that they're going to... Alright, Florida ends up going likely. Texas ends up going likely. Looking here, we have Maine going likely Democratic. Looks like it's almost entirely done. It's taking a while. I'm not exactly sure why, but looks like Harris surprisingly only has 93 out of 100% chance here, because of the chance that the very, very slight chance that she will lose Virginia, or Minnesota, or New Hampshire, or Maine, or even Nebraska's 2nd district would be a tie. So, in this scenario, Harris wins 94 out of 100 times. Most of it is with 270 on the dot, as these are almost certainly going to each candidate. However, there is a chance that Trump will win by flipping one state. So that's going to be, that looks like it's basically just going to be flipping Minnesota, or maybe just flipping New Hampshire. It doesn't give us any actual details here. But likely Republican, there's those ones. Likely Dem, there actually are no lean states here now. Interestingly enough, because the closely contested ones are the ones that I gave to each candidate. But basically, based on my current model, Harris actually only wins 94 out of 100 times because of the chance that she would lose Virginia, or Minnesota, or New Hampshire. But 94% is still a ridiculously good chance. Now, if you go in and just give, for example, a surprise, and Harris ends up winning Arizona, now things definitely change. She wins 88 out of 100 times just based on that one state change, and it appears to be a nice slope centered around almost a 150 electoral vote win for the average out of this, but it makes all these higher ones possible. You end up flipping the entire Rust Belt to her side. You end up flipping North Carolina Florida ends up going toss-up, and so lean Dem ends up being Georgia and North Carolina, and that's already over 270. So this would be a very good sign. This is lean Republican, Iowa lean Republican. So you can't flip a state that if they only have less than 1.5% chance of winning that state. But the most influential state that we can flip is Indiana. And if Indiana goes blue, it doesn't even know what to do because it doesn't ever think that Indiana will go blue. So it's going to do some recalculations across the entire thing. But this is a ridiculously low chance, probably around 2% chance of it going blue or so, based on it being 1.5. Now, in actuality, there's literally 0 chance that it's going to go blue. But now you can see Arizona went blue, Alaska went solid blue, Texas went blue, Montana is lean red. Montana's down here. And here we are. Here's our final result. South Carolina went blue, Ohio went deep blue, Iowa went deep blue. Over 99 out of 100. The median is almost 350 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. This is ridiculous flip. Absolutely, completely changes the game here. We end up getting states that Democrats haven't won since the years of Jimmy Carter, like South Carolina. She would re-win Florida, would win Texas, which I believe hasn't been won since Carter, and before that, probably LBJ. So, in the case that she somehow manages to pull off a huge upset win in Indiana, she absolutely will carry it with solid Dem states carrying her over 270. Because then with the solid states, you'd have all of the swing states be solid, including North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, all of them, including, and even Alaska will be likely blue. So this is absolutely going to, this would destroy the Republican campaign. And there's basically just one chance out here that there's a chance that Trump would somehow, this would be an outlier, and that somehow Harris would win that one, but then not win any of the other ones. So there's a chance that she would, for example, win Indiana, but then Trump would win Pennsylvania, because if you just have her, basically what I'm saying is, if you just have this map, but then she surprisingly pulls out Indiana, that doesn't mean that she wins. Right? She could win these two, and then Trump wins all the others, and he wins the presidency. So that's essentially why it's not a 100% chance. It actually says it's not a 100% chance because it doesn't say that unless you actually give a candidate 100 over 270, and here I only gave her 11. Now flipping to the most impactful Trump flip would be flipping Illinois blue. This is, I actually think, a bit less likely than Indiana going, flip Illinois red, excuse me. Now, based on this, you have the entire center of the country going red. Everything, Colorado, New Mexico, Georgia going safe red. I mean, here he ends up having a lead where safe states are red. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine 2nd District, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Maine's 1st District, Nebraska's 3rd District, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming, all going safe red. So that is a huge change. Here you end up with Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska's 2nd District, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Here you have Colorado and Maine. These are huge flips. You end up with a lean New York. A lean New York if she flips Illinois, because Illinois is basically guaranteed for the Democrats. So if she manages to flip Illinois, then she almost guarantees a win in New York. New Jersey is a toss-up with Oregon. This is not happening. Now, interestingly, this is relatively close to the map that On Point Politics has, which is hilarious. But just a bit better than that, you end up with, if we end up shifting, probably something like undo Illinois, and then you flip, for example, just below that, Minnesota. Just flip Minnesota. And then it does its calculations. This is pretty close to his electoral map. All right, you have likely states all up here, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington. This actually looks just like his actual map. California, District of Columbia, Hawaii, Maine's first district. That's actually likely on his map. Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont. I mean, most of the you end up with a lean New Mexico. Toss-up is Nebraska's second district. New Hampshire and Virginia. Those are toss-ups. You still end up with a likely Democratic New Jersey. But this is a ridiculous map right here with even just Republican Minnesota. Very, very little chance of that happening. If you end up with a red Michigan, then basically all of these states end up going red. This is basically the best case scenario for the Trump campaign as of right now, and it ends up giving him an 84% chance of winning, which is actually a bit lower than I thought it'd be. Which actually means there's a relatively good chance if you end up flipping the top states that each candidate will win. It obviously does not expect this because it ends up there's actually a 2 and 100% chance, 2 and 100 chance of no electoral college winner. Interestingly, that would be probably based on shifts in the second district because there's always a lot of combinations there. But looking here now, you end up with a red Michigan, and so you end up with toss-up Pennsylvania, toss-up Georgia, toss-up Nevada. Those are very interesting combinations. You end up with Wisconsin, lean Dem, Arizona, lean Republican, and so it's centered very nicely here, but Harris actually does still have a very slight lead here. Interestingly enough, if you end up flipping these two, which means that most likely she is a bit more likely to win Michigan, or win North Carolina than Michigan, or than Trump is to win Michigan. On Polymarket, I believe she is equally likely to win Michigan as Trump is to win North Carolina. Now looking for another surprising one would be, for example, a Democratic Florida. That immediately shifts Texas to toss-up, all of the swing states to blue. But other than that, that actually shifts the least states. It just moves the entire field of swing states blue to likely Democrat. There apparently are 2 out of 100 that Trump ends up winning in. I'm not sure exactly how. If we move Michigan red, then there's a chance that will end up changing things out. Yeah, Harris already dropped down to 91, however, 83 now. So 83 to 17, that gives Trump a much larger chance of victory. If you end up moving Arizona red, let's instead move Pennsylvania red. That'll be more of an influence, and then turn off Arizona. That'll definitely go red at that point in time. Wisconsin ends up being toss-up, North Carolina toss-up, Georgia toss-up, and Harris's lead drops down to almost 50. This is a very fun tool. If you want to play around with it a bit, I will link it in the description. But there's a few interesting outcomes that definitely end up being very interesting. If you just put in a Rust Belt victory for Harris, then it has a full victory for Harris across all the swing states, and you would even end up with a toss-up Florida and a toss-up Texas, as well as a toss-up Maine's 2nd Congressional District, interestingly enough. You end up with the solid Democrat states, bringing her to 270 on the dot, and likely Democrat states are the rest of the Sun Belt states, here. But if you then just put in the Rust Belt states that Trump is most likely to win, then you actually end up with a Trump sweep of the states. So, interesting thing is, depending on exactly what order you put things in, on election night, Georgia is most likely to get called first. So, assuming that Trump would win Georgia by a slight amount, just putting in Georgia, his odds now increase to 71 to 29. But then, if Pennsylvania gets called next and Harris wins it, that's opposite to what it said. So now Harris takes the lead, 69-31. Then if Michigan gets called next, then of course that's going to bring things up again. So that's going to be 87-12. Then North Carolina going for Trump. Then that's going to change things again. So it would continually change back and forth as these states end up getting called. And that's not going to shift things too much for Trump because Trump absolutely needs North Carolina in order to win. See, it's 75-24, which is extremely close still. But then giving Arizona to Donald Trump would then bring it down to, it looks like 63, 30, 62, 61. It's still dropping as it's counting, so it's getting even closer to 50-50. And 58 to 40 now with this one. Very, very close. If Wisconsin then gets called, then most likely Nevada is going to flip to lean Democrat. No, it's going to stay toss-up, apparently. But the rest of the country is still staying put. Now that Wisconsin being the deciding factor in this election would absolutely... In this situation, it would come down to who won Wisconsin. Because if Trump wins Wisconsin right now, then that puts him, I believe, it puts him above 270. So in that situation, he absolutely would win the election. Now, because there's a chance that, he might lose Florida, there's a chance he might lose Texas, there's a chance he might lose Maine 2nd District, it's not going to say 100%, but it jumps up to 80% and 80 to 20. It's probably going to continue going up for Trump. Yep. So, absolutely a very interesting thing to look at, to tinker around with, to see some odds as things continue. Now, of course, there are some scenarios. I think this actually is essentially what's going to happen, except move Nevada down here. But if you look at the Rust Belt, then it immediately shifts to all blue. If you move the Sun Belt, then it immediately shifts to all red. So the very interesting combinations here on how it changes the odds. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to not miss my election night live stream, and have a fabulous rest of your